Today, we're going to be reading chapter 9, and we're getting started right now.
On their map exists the image of an old man with a pointed chin. The sharp jaw of the man represents the area known as Zeeland, or South Holland. If you look closer, you'll see that Zeeland is encircled by the Westerschelde River in the north, bordered by Belgium to the south and east, and flanked by the North Sea to the west. Constantine liked to refer to the old man's jaw as his own jaw. Today, by way of a friend, he'd gotten his hands on the very Porsche used by Tom Cruise in the movie Risky Business. That the Sicilian had desperately wanted to add this special new toy to his collection was the reason he reluctantly paid the outrageous asking price. The car ran like a top, but had he paid too much? No matter, he thought to himself. As the boss headed down the road toward the villa, he thought about how he'd lost 2 men in the last week. Although the decision to eliminate Rosie had been his own, Yanni's death was a different matter. Yanni Fisser was a made man. Not good. Not good at all, he said to himself. It could have been worse. Hunt and Rutger could have been killed. Then the family would have been seriously crippled. Like a blind dog who smells a bone and thinks it will be his, Constantine sensed that he would find the culprit behind the charade. He thought, justice will be served. About 10 minutes away from the villa, the Sicilian called for an update. The Venezuelan servant answered the phone. Yes, sir, Mario said. The men are waiting for you now. Has Yari arrived yet? Yes, a short time ago, sir. Constantine shifted up to 5th. How's the lad taking his brother's death? Not lightly, sir. Of course not. Tell the men I'll be at the villa momentarily. Constantine clicked his Nokia shut. 5 minutes later, Constantine, proud as a buttercup, pulled up to the doors of the great green garage behind his villa and watched as several servants opened the doors. The Zeeland boss revved the engine and popped the clutch, leaving a bit of tire on the eggshell-colored driveway. Shooting forward, he cut a jagged line and came close to nicking the side of the car as his path fell off center through the entrance. Once inside, Constantine surveyed the cornucopia of vehicles occupying the makeshift garage, always a sight to behold. On one side of the enclosure, several cars lined the wall. A 1963 olive green Aston Martin DB4, a 1991 BMW Red Z1, a 1976 orange Ferrari 246 Dino, a 1973 banana yellow Lamborghini Mira, and a 1962 silver Lotus Elan. Constantine moved his Sicilian eyes to the other side of the barn. Eagerly, he scanned the opposite row of exotic cars. A 1969 black Corvette Stingray, a 1983 silver DeLorean DMC-12, a red MG Midget, a green Porsche 911 Carrera 2.7. Although the price had been steep, the new Porsche was a nice addition to his collection. To hell with it, he thought. It's just money and a good investment. Mario appeared in the entrance to the barn. He said, Shall I let the men know that you are ready, sir? Constantine bent over to inspect a flaw in the paint job of the orange Ferrari. That'll be fine, Mario. And then he added, Has Yari cooled down? Mario's silence said it all. Have Gretchen fix up a nice platter of cocaine for him. Maybe that'll do the trick. As you wish, sir. When he walked into the house, Constantine was greeted by his faithful companion, Yappers, a Jack Russell Terrier. He bent down to rub the canine's muzzle affectionately. Oh, that's a good dog, he said lovingly. Yappers had wondered when his master would return. He sucked up what he could while he could. The Sicilian strode away casually and entered the living room. Glancing around, he saw panic on the men's faces. Yari sat on the sofa, his head between his legs, his long curly black hair cascading downward. Constantine walked over to the unruly gangster and squeezed him on the shoulder. "I'm sorry, my friend. We'll find the bastard who did this, I promise." Fizzer shivered at the boss's statement. So did everyone else. "They fucking got him, Constantine. Yanni's dead. They fucking got him. They fucking got him." Constantine turned and looked at the men. He saw that all eyes were on Yari. "I'm gonna kill the motherfuckers," Fisher went on, saying. "Slice the cocksuckers up into little pieces." Arno de Longa, an issue of Playboy stuck in one hand, rose, stepped forward and said, "We don't know shit, boss." To these words, Fisher punched the wall and let out an ear-curdling shriek. The men all cringed. "Everybody just calm down," the boss said, intervening. "We have people looking into the matter." Gretchen, the German servant, came in, set down the silver platter of cocaine, and said, "Compliments of the boss." "The new Colombian men," Constantine said, "take as much as you like. It'll be a long few days." The unruly gangster rose lackadaisically and caromed over to the teak dining room table. Without even bothering to roll up a bill as a makeshift straw, he dove face first and sucked in until his nose could take no more. "Motherfucker," he said, coming up, turning his stare on Rucker. "Where the fuck were you?" Rucker sat up on his haunches and stared back at Yari, not knowing what to say when the boss interjected acidly, "Calm down, Yari." Fizzer jerked his head in different directions, like he'd heard something and was trying to catch the nature of its source. Just then, Mario entered the room, walked directly to the boss, stopped, cleared his throat, and whispered something into the Sicilian's ear. Constantine Vanderpoel froze. His facial expression immediately told the men that he had received bad news. The Sicilian looked at the men and back at Mario. In disbelief, he thought to himself, "What's happening?" The look on the Sicilian's face seemed to corral the imminent clash between Yari Fisser and Rutger von S., two men who would back down from nothing. The other men in the room readied themselves for the news that they were about to receive. Everyone knew it was serious. Constantine controlled his anger. For the time being anyway, he would need every bit of resolve to confront the situation at hand. He said to the men, "It seems we have another problem." The men all turned to face the Sicilian. Ivar Van Looy and an unknown assailant had just been found dead at the farm near Axel. Who the hell was behind this? A war is brewing. I could feel it. But with whom? Who would dare challenge me? Is there something I don't see? What is at stake? So many unanswered questions. Perhaps the culprit came from within. Constantine looked around the room. His eyes settled on Rutger, to whom he said, "Where the hell is Hunt?" Rutger sat up straight. "I don't know, boss. I've been trying to call him all day. He didn't come back to the flat last night. He was pretty shaken up after the hit at the shop." Constantine shot forth right away. "Listen up, Rutger. We need to get to the shop and up and running again. Arno, you're going to need to go to the shop with Rutger and get things going. Help him till we find out what's happened to Hunt. The two of you need to go there and clean the place up right now. We're losing money every second that shop stays closed. Oh, by the way, I guess I don't have to ask if you took care of Yanni's body." Edwin shot a look of concern. To the boss he said, "Yeah, we dumped the body outside of Holst, near Molly's rock sure." "Be careful what you tell the police," Constantine warned. "They're going to be asking questions." Fizzer suddenly came back to life. The cocaine had entered his bloodstream. At the mention of cops, the unruly gangster rose and said, "You let me know if you have trouble with the cops. I'll handle them." "Fine then," Constantine said, "and let me know if Hunt shows up. Edwin, go scout around town and see if you can drum up any information on the American." Rucker took one look at Constantine and thought, too late for that. Hunt's long gone by now. A few unproductive days passed. Tuesday morning, Constantine decided to stop in on Arno and Rucker at the shop to see how things were going. Although he wanted to believe that Rucker was telling him the truth when he said he hadn't heard from Hunt, the Sicilian also knew that the two men had grown close over the years. When Arno de Longa saw the boss, the goofy gangster folded the corner of his page over, closed his magazine, and said, "Look who it is, Rudd." From behind the bar, Rucker threw Constantine a sideways glance, nodded a hello, and went back to counting money. Constantine said, "I have a couple of matters to discuss with you, lad." By the tone of Constantine's voice, Rucker knew he might be in trouble. "Sure, boss." Constantine wasn't sure. He thought he sensed a trace of fear in Rucker's voice. The Sicilian said, "Arno, go in the back and make some coffee, why don't you?" Arno de Longa could see that a serious matter was at hand. He grabbed his penthouse magazine and retreated to the kitchen. To Rucker, then Constantine said, "Let me ask you a question." And when Arno left the room, "Do you think Hunt had something to do with all this?" Rucker had anticipated that Constantine might make a visit to the shop and start asking questions. He said to the boss, "I wouldn't think so." "I guess you still haven't heard from the lad then." "No, I hope he's okay, boss," Rucker said earnestly. "Well, when Hunt returns, you tell him I want to see him at once." And the Sicilian locked deep into the platinum gangster's eyes. "Of course, I would hate to hear that you played any part in this." Rucker held a finger up, pointed it at no one in particular. "Hold on a minute now." Constantine jumped in and said quite curtly, Now, don't get your feathers ruffled. I'm just looking at all the angles. We're 3 fucking men down." Rucker, trying his best to sound offended, said, "What was the other thing you wanted to talk about?" "Ah, yes," Constantine snapped. "I have another problem." Rucker waited. "You're a fucking junkie." The statement hit Rucker finesse where it counted the most. He hadn't expected Constantine to lash out at him like that. "The only reason," the Sicilian said, "that I'm being patient with you is because you've been a loyal gent. We've known each other for a long time. But this shit, this shit's gotta stop. Do you understand? You will stay away from Tollenstraat if you know what's good for you." Rucker grumbled respectfully and dropped his head. To the floor he said, "I just been going through a rough spell, that's all." He looked back up at Constantine. "It's not a problem." Even though he knew it was, knew he wouldn't be able to bring a halt to the demon inside him from tormenting, calling him, "Feed me, Rutger, feed me." Arno de Longa reappeared, a new stack of magazines cradled in his hands like an infant. "Looks like things are going well," Constantine told the men as he looked through the till. "I brought a few things for the cask." He handed over a brown paper sack. Arno de Longa said, "Boss, did you get me that new hustler yet?" "It's in the bag," Constantine told the goofy gangster, along with some extra northern lights. Rucker said, "Good, we don't want to run out of that. I'll see you blokes later then." Arno de Longa stood up, marked his place again, and came wallowing across the room. He handed Constantine a joint and said, "Hey, boss, try this shit out." Constantine took the joint and left. "I hope Hunt calls soon," Rucker said to himself. "I don't know how long I can put up with Arno. That motherfucker Sitting there all day, looking at those fucking magazines, picking in his butt crack, digging for Lord knows what. Hunt better come through. And then his thoughts turned to Sophie Dubois, Yari's horror. What imp had brought her into his life? If Yari found out that he'd fucked her, the thug would kill him for sure. As Rucker imagined Yari pulling out his brass knuckles, Constantine barged back into the shop. The platinum gangster felt his heart skip a couple of beats. He looked at Constantine, who appeared to be holding the joint he'd gotten from Arno. He waved it anxiously in Arno's face. "Where the fuck did you get this shit?" Arno DeLong at that moment thought, "What?" To the boss he said, I picked it up from a guy on the street. He had this kilo he was getting rid of for next to nothing, boss, so I bought it." "For a nice price too," Rucker added. Constantine was livid, his eyes cracked with red. "This is our shit." Rucker stepped around the bar and said, "What do you mean?" Constantine raised his voice a couple of octaves. "When the expediter was taken out, he had 100 kilos of this with him. Get the picture?" Rucker knew immediately what the boss thought. Whoever killed Ivar Van Lowe had stolen their shit and dumped it locally. Now it was making its way out into the streets. Arno DeLonge was scared out of his wits. I didn't know, boss." Constantine asked for details. The goofy gangster told the boss what he could remember. "Pim something or other," he said. "He's always in town. Curly hair, looks like he never brushes it. He's in the shops and pubs all the time." Rucker knew who Arno was talking about. That would be Pim Putman. "Find him, like now," Constantine snapped. "Then maybe we can get to the bottom of this." At that moment it hit Rucker. He had to stop himself from smiling. He thought about Hunt. "Inheritance my ass, you crazy motherfucker.